Lacey Everett here with the Minds in Motion dance series. Today's guest is Michelle Cirrito, who is such a phenomenal person who shares her stories and her struggles with anxiety and injuries and how she overcame them. Michelle has been a professional dancer for 9 years now, dancing for professional soccer teams, footy, and American football teams, NFL cheerleader, and a Laker girl for the NBA. So she has a lot of experience and a lot of life lessons to share. We really go into the psychological effects of injuries in athletes, because injuries not only get us physically, they also get us mentally, and it is so hard. So Michelle gives us a lot of great tips. Michelle also shares tips on how to conquer anxiety. Also talks about scoliosis and her journey with it, and scoliosis exercises for spine and the psychological response to injury, dance-related injuries, and more, and how to get through that. She also talks about the fear of missing out, FOMO, and how being injured can cause a lot of that and what she did to overcome that. Please subscribe to the Minds in Motion YouTube channel so I can make more of these videos for you. And if this video really impacts you, of course, send it to other people. Let's meet Michelle. Hi, Mish.
Hi, Lacey.
Hi, I am so happy to see you, and thank you so much for doing this.
No, thank you for having me. I'm looking forward to it.
So you, Michelle, have danced for every team under the sun. You've got soccer, footy, football, American football, NFL cheerleader, and NBA dancer. You've kind of got the experience from it all. So I'm curious what you took from all of that.
Yeah. So I know, I guess when you like lay it all out, I'm like, okay, I guess I have done a lot, right? We always sell ourselves short. So I turned 18. I just thought, you know what? I'm just going to put myself out there. I started auditioning for things. I did like background extra work through central casting because I thought that was something fun. Kind of put my feelers out there for different internships while I was in school. But anyways, I ended up first making a team that was an indoor soccer team called the Anaheim Bolts. And at the time we had our games at the Anaheim Convention Center. And, there was very few fans, mostly our families. But that was a great experience. Our director actually was a former Clippers Spirit member. So she had that background. So I'm really fortunate for that. Shout out to Lene. And then after that, that team actually pretty much disbanded and then moved to Ontario, where now it's, I believe, the Toyota Arena, but at the time it was the Citizens Business Bank Arena. And I did that for 2 years with the Ontario Fury. So, and same director and everything. So it was a great start to kind of get my feet wet and, see what it was to be on a dance team for a professional sports team. And then towards the end of my second year, I was actually selected along with, there was a group of 6 of us that went to India, and I danced on a television show for their cricket season, which that was a wild experience in itself. We still talk about it to this day. So I guess that's another sport to add to the list. And then after that, I ended up making Lakers, but that was, you can only hope, but I didn't know if it was in the cards. And quite honestly, I had auditioned for other teams in the past, Clippers, Chargers, any LA or San Diego area team at the time. Lakers was such a renowned organization that I just kind of never thought I'd be cut out for it, but I always tried. So technically, the third time of auditioning, I made Lakers. Did that with you. I did that for 2 years. And then after that, I decided that I wanted to keep dancing and decided to audition for the Rams. And now I'm in just finished my 3rd season with them. So yeah, I guess I have been all over the place, but quite honestly, I think to answer your question, what I've learned from that is you never know unless you try. And, a no doesn't mean it's a no forever. It doesn't mean it's the end of the world. I think, a lot of other opportunities and other doors opened up to me during the times that maybe I did get a no, whether it's for a job, whether it's for something in dance. So I just kind of took every no with a grain of salt and kept pushing forward. And then on a more personal level, actually, when I was younger, I struggled from anxiety. And that was always a huge thing, but I still love to dance. And so I think, just kind of navigating through that growing up, and continuing dancing, but then making it on a professional level. And I guess maybe looking at me, you would never know that that's something I had dealt with, especially because, on these dance teams, you are an ambassador, you're a spokesperson, you're out there and you're talking to everyone. And fortunate enough that I've been able to do what I love professionally on the side while I also still work. And just being able to take away from all of that is just, you don't know unless you try, and just push yourself and never sell yourself short. We're like our harshest critics. Even to this day, I still have things that, like, oh, you always beat yourself up about something. Give yourself the benefit of the doubt. We all have something to offer. So you never know. It's always someone will take a chance on you.
Yes, someone will take a chance on you. I love that, to keep that in mind.
Yeah.
Wow, Mish, it sounds like you've really had a lot of different experiences that all resulted in perseverance. It
Absolutely.
sounds like you said, kind of never give up and never sell yourself short. And you don't know unless you try is your big thing. And so it's just so admirable that you're able to do that and manage anxiety and self-criticism that gets in the way, sticky, icky. And like you said, we are our own worst critics. And it sounds like you've learned to, give yourself compassion, give yourself a hug.
And it's all about too, like, recognizing those moments, but also not dwelling on them, because I'll let myself have a moment of frustration or a moment of worry and whatever it is, but everything's temporary. So
yes, like you accept it and then you release it.
absolutely.
Yes, nice. And it seems like it's really worked for you, because Michelle, you've really gone off with the
Oh,
dance world. You really have. Truly. So that's really great to hear. And thank you for sharing that, because anxiety is really hard. It's so hard and it's so distracting.
It
It
is.
is it is so distracting. And so when you're trying to be on all the time with a fresh face of makeup, your high boots and whatever it is, your hairspray, meeting fans and dancing on stage, no one would ever know.
No, you don't look it on the exterior, but on the inside, you might be feeling it. I know. It's so funny. I have so many moments where I think of moments at like Staples Center, or when I was at the Coliseum, and hopefully, dancing at the new SoFi Stadium now once we're able to have fans there. But, your mind's going 100 miles a minute because you're trying to remember, staying clean, don't miss your count. This is where you go for this part. Oh, there was a change on this part of the choreography. You're thinking about all these things, but then also it's like time kind of stops, and I would be able to see clearly people's faces, because you kind of think that you zone out in a sense, but I'd be watching people and then also internalizing like, okay, don't panic, or oh gosh, you messed that part up in rehearsal, don't do it now. All those anxieties on the inside, but on the outside, you're looking beautiful and bold, and so yeah, it's always there, but it's all about learning how to manage it and accepting it, and knowing that we all go through it.
Michelle, you sharing that really normalizes it for other people who struggle with anxiety and who are performers, because there's a lot of people. And I also wanted to ask the psychological effects of injuries in athletes, because you are a huge athlete, dancer, dancing for all these sports teams and professionally. So you have to know how to warm up and cool down. Your body is your job, it's your career. And so I'm curious how you have dealt with injuries in the past and overcame them.
I remember when I was on Lakers, I had the worst shin splints. And I ran track in high school and I never got shin splints. I don't know. But I remembered, I think just from all the bouncing around and, the tennis shoes and the going from the court to I don't know, it really messed me up. But you never want to talk about it. And I mean, if something as small as shin splints, I don't want anyone to know, because you think, oh gosh, it's going to, potentially ruin any chances you have of, I don't, or any, just that it would kind of put a target on you, or, oh, she's injured or this and that. And it's really not talked about, which is unfortunate because it could lead to other injuries. And I think, I don't know, I guess it also spans back to just the dance industry in general. It's hard because you don't want to say when you're hurting or you're not feeling well. You always have to push through, but you do have to listen to your body because you don't want to overdo it. I also, this past year, I actually fractured my patella, which was yeah, I know. So, but it was a clumsy thing. I fell on an escalator, and but I was just like, are you serious? I've been dancing all these years, knock on wood. I've never been injured, while at a game, or gotten injured while at a game, or at any sort of performance or anything through all my years. And then here I fracture my patella on a darn escalator. I was going the wrong way, so don't do that. But that's besides the point. So, in this year in the pandemic, we fortunately had a couple of experiences at games where we did get to perform. But after that, I'm like, I can't dance. I couldn't even, get through a Zoom rehearsal without it hurting. So, ended up getting an x-ray, found out it was fractured. Luckily and unluckily, I was, that phrase FOMO, I was afraid of missing out of any experiences that had happened this past season, potentially with the Rams. But we ended up not performing at the remaining games, so I really didn't miss out on much. But so with that being said, I did take the time to go to physical therapy, really worked on it. I still go once a week. It kind of became like social hour for me too, just because I was like not talking to anyone other than, myself or my roommate while working from home, and friends here and there. But, just listening to my body. Finally got that x-ray, realized, yeah, I'm injured. Being diligent about going to physical therapy. Even when I was, I guess back when I was in college at LMU, I had also had a labral tear in my left hip. So ended up, going to physical therapy for that. And then all through the time that I've been on dance teams, I've been fortunate that I've sought out like a chiropractor and sports massage. And also I had a mentor that I worked with, Cheryl, she's the best. She really helped me through my time on Lakers and kind of prepping for that, and during the team, and even still with Rams. But I would go to Pilates with her at a place called Core Arts, which is in Orange County, and they're great. They specialize in working with dancers and doing gyrotonic and Pilates, and just a lot more than you would typically get in a Pilates class. And so Cheryl, also knowing that I had scoliosis, would work with me on a lot of core exercises, flexibility, things like that, technique. I think it's just important to, one, listen to your body, but also to find solutions that are going to work for you. So even still, I go to a chiropractor and he'll do everything from cupping on me to putting, kinesiology tape, or so, all those sorts of things. And it's hard because when you do have to take time off, when you are seriously injured, it's difficult, because I was like, wow, here I am. I couldn't even drive because it was my right leg. And they're like, don't bend your knee. You got to stay in this full leg boot, basically. So it was challenging, and I'm like, I haven't broken anything since I was in like the third grade. I fell and I fractured my wrist at that time. So but it's hard because you do, psychologically you think, oh gosh, okay, I'm backtracking a lot. I'm used to being at this level of activity. Even in the pandemic, I quite honestly have not been nearly as active as I normally am, as with everyone. It's just about listening to your body and taking advantage of opportunities, and actually like actually doing what you need to do,
Mhm.
in terms of making sure that you're doing what you have to do with exercises, or getting hands-on massage treatment or things like that, or resting, just resting, icing, resting, self-care. Even I'm like, all right, I guess tonight I'll sit here and I'll watch a Netflix show and I'll have a glass of wine, then, and I'll put my injured leg up on a pillow.
Yes, give it to yourself. Give it to yourself.
Exactly.
Me. Wow. Okay, that's a story for sure. Again, with the perseverance with you. I'm so glad people get to listen to this. Like you said, listening to your body and noticing and being aware. And it's hard too to have that FOMO feeling, like you mentioned, and feel kind of like, oh, I don't want to miss dance, or I don't want to miss a game. Or if you look at it in the worldly perspective, it might just be a year of your life, probably even less than that.
So much time. But, in hindsight, I'm like, oh, my knee's fine. I could be dancing around and it's okay again,
Yes.
and it did go by fast. So you're right.
Yeah. And then, too, with the worldly perspective, okay, it's only a short time if you think of it like that. It's also probably going to make you happier in the long run, because what you did, it sounds like, is you listened to your body, you took time off, and you sought out all the people, all the mental health professionals, all the physical health professionals. Cheers to the physical therapists, the chiropractors, all of you. And you just did it all. I know, why not use it all? If we have the resources,
I
why
know.
not use it? But it sounds like that helped you overcome it, is listening to your body first thing and
Yeah,
not fighting it,
right.
and then going to all of these professionals for your health. And then that seemed to have helped you. And then in the long run, you're better able to dance for many more years, instead of, okay, your career's over because you didn't take time off.
Exactly. Yeah. Yeah. Because, yeah, if you think of it that way, years down the road, if you didn't take care of a problem that you were feeling at the time, it could really, become even worse. And then that's it. So yeah, we want to try to avoid that at all costs.
Yes. And two, injuries, a lot of it is physical. Of course, it is physical, and it's horrible, and it's so, yes, and it's so hard, but it's also mental. I'm curious how you got over it mentally too.
Hmm. Yeah, I think just, I don't know. I guess the only thing that I can compare it to is, like I said, when I had fractured my wrist back in third grade. I remember I was so upset because it was my right hand, my right wrist. And I'm like, this is the hand I write with. It's the end of the world. It was summer. I'm like, I can't go in the pool. I have to put my arm up. Like, woe is me. Just, I can't do all the things. And in reality, I'm like, okay, it's like the end of the world when you're little. But so comparing that to now, I'm like, man, it's really unfortunate that, I had a labral tear that I had to work through, or, dealing the day to day with my scoliosis and feeling those imbalances. And though it's not an injury, it's just something that I've dealt with my whole life and worn a brace for, even when I was younger and things like that, so just knowing how to deal with that day to day. And then obviously, then when fracturing my patella, I don't know, I think that being older too, the mindset's different. So I think it was all mental, but I told myself, like, okay, yeah, you're missing out on these things, or you don't feel your best, you feel like you're not doing a lot, you can't do a lot, um but it's not the end of the world. And I thought it was more so important to, like, take the time off and do what I had to do, so that there weren't more issues in the future, like you said. So I think just,
Okay.
I mean, yeah, even just in my personal life, I talked to a therapist. That's always helpful. Having a good support system of friends, whether you're injured or you're not, is always important. And I think just listening, again, to your body and just how you feel. We're not always going to have perfect days. I'm all bright and shiny and happy now, but you have moments where you're frustrated or you're sad, and you have to feel those. So I think, and even just when I was younger and dealing with anxiety, I learned the tools to be able to manage that now. My anxiety is much different now, even just day to day. So I think it's just kind of learning the tools necessary to just keep a healthy mindset no matter what problems you're working through at the time. Like I said, every day bring something different. We're all bearing different struggles with us, and I think just this past year too, living through a pandemic has been really hard for people, and mental health. And I'm appreciative that there's things like, like even our conversation just now, or just other opportunities for people to realize that there's, the stigma that needs to go away when it comes to talking about mental health, because we could all benefit from it. And I think, everyone could benefit from seeing a therapist, but also therapy get expensive. So like for me, I was really adamant about finding someone that accepted my insurance. Even now we just do it over FaceTime, since she's not seeing people in person currently. But there are options out there, and I think just finding whatever works for you, and then even just psychologically too. Like I said, if you kind of take a self-care day sometimes, or even like yesterday, I was like, I'm gonna go get my nails done. Just got to do little things for yourself, or even just taking a walk around the block by where I live and just kind of getting some fresh air, or maybe picking up the phone and talking to someone. I call my mom very often sometimes to just kind of let off some steam, my best friends. So all of those things help with mental health too. You got to do what's right for you, and just really, again, listen to your body and listen to how you're feeling. And, if you have kind of that tightness, in your chest, sometimes that's anxiety. Or I notice sometimes my shoulders are, I'll be working at my computer, my shoulders are up here, and I'm like, why am I tense? Just kind of cluing into those things and realizing like, I don't need to be, uptight right now. Like, it's all good.
Yeah, speaking of computers, I have a friend who has a sticky note next to her computer and it says, shoulders down, take a deep breath. Because it's so true. We're like this at our computers
Yeah, you don't
because
even
we're
realize.
all,
That's
yeah.
something that my mentor and coach, Cheryl, had told me about too. Like even in Pilates, she'd be like, okay, hold on, like put your shoulders down. You don't realize, just like my everyday activities, I'm like, oh yeah, I am holding a lot of tension there. So
Yes.
I have to be very mindful of, just because, you get tense and it's like, oh wait, okay, relax.
Yeah, relax. Absolutely. And the core arts, is it called? Yes, core arts. That place sounds phenomenal.
Yeah, they're
Especially because
fabulous. Their owner, Sharmila, is great, and they're all really tapped into just the dance world and working with dancers, and especially in Orange County, they have dancers of all ages. I'm like, man, I was not a very competitive dancer when I was little, but if I was, I would have been like, Mom, send me there, because I'd be turning out turns and probably a different dancer than I am now. I miss that I can't go to them now since I live in LA, but that was a great place for me to go to. And the thing too, quite honestly, with physical therapy is that I had started with one person, and nothing against him and how he runs his practice or anything like that, but I just didn't feel like I was personally getting a lot out of it, and I needed to be challenged. So I moved over to a different physical therapist, and she was great, really pushed me, gave me a lot more variety with my exercises. So I think too, like knowing what you need, and being vocal about that too. I think, I didn't make a scene about it, but I just thought, oh, I think I need to make a little bit of a change. And then actually, now that I'm remembering, I actually strained my hamstring. I remember before my second year of auditions going into Lakers, actually at Core Arts, Sharmila had connected me with this woman, Luella, who was at a physical therapy place in Orange County. So I would drive to her because she had worked with dancers, and she was a former dancer. And I think finding like the professionals, medical professionals or whatever it is that can tailor their practice to dancers is huge too. I know it's such a specific little niche thing.
and it's important. It's important.
Because they better understand our bodies. Um,
Mhm.
and I think it kind of really made a world of a difference for me.
Yes, absolutely. And it's too sounds like it's very much, I mean, we are the ones who live in our bodies.
Right.
So let's take care of it. Let's,
Absolutely.
let's be nice. And it sounds like you have done just that. So it makes sense that you've been a professional dancer. It sounds like you've having a big importance on finding the right people, the right medical professionals for you.
Mhm.
Because again, this is your life, it's about you. What works for me might not work for you, and vice versa. And so all of our chemistry is different, our upbringings are different, the way we internalize things mentally, it's
Sure.
different. So that's really important, and I really like that you share that, because it's hard to kind of break up with your therapist or your physical therapist or whatever it may be, but it's important. No, I'm paying them, and it's my body, I have to live in it.
Yeah. And and it could work for them too. Maybe it's not working out on their end, but I think if you have that type of relationship, it makes it a lot better, and you get more out of it too. So even like my chiropractor, he's great, and he's like, no, you're an athlete, we have to take care of your body, so people that acknowledge that, I'm like, yeah, dance isn't just dancing around. Like, no, this is serious too. We need the same type of treatment like other athletes.
Absolutely. This was wonderful. And do you have any tips, Michelle, before we end, with scoliosis? Because I know you've had that and you've had to dance with it, and
Yeah.
it's been something in your life that you've had to
Right.
kind of overcome and work with.
hmm Yeah. So with my scoliosis, it's interesting because, they would always do the test where you bend over and you touch your toes, and they would check your spine in elementary school. And I remember one of my friends in one of my classes, she had it. And she wore a brace, I think, starting in like fifth or sixth grade. And but then mine wasn't discovered, I think, until I was in eighth grade. But they would test us every year. So anyways, needless to say, I ended up finding out I had scoliosis, and my curvature was to the point that they wanted to put me in a brace in order to while I was still growing. They take like an x-ray of your hand when you're younger to see how much, I don't know, growth is left in your body. I don't know, it's a whole thing. But anyway, so
Science is so awesome.
I know, right. And so I had gone to a doctor at Children's Hospital. They put me in a brace, and it was basically just to have it while I was still growing. And I remember that was the whole thing that I had to deal with mentally too. Is my freshman year of high school, I had to wear a brace, and I mean, now it sounds crazy, like packed hallways and things like that. But I remember freshman year, like the freshman wing, you'd be packed in there like sardines, rushing to get to your locker. And I would just always fear, like, oh my gosh, someone's going to run into me and they're going to feel that, like, why is her side hard? She's wearing a brace. What is this? And I just remember I was always so embarrassed. And then I ran track. I was on dance teams. So I'm like, how am I going to still have, be able to do physical activity with this? Sleeping in it was terrible. And I remember my mom was so sweet. She tried to buy me like tops, that were a little bit like flowier, so you couldn't tell that I had the brace on. And it was so sweet, but I was like, this is awful. It's the end of the world. Like, I'm a freshman in high school. How am I going to make friends? Anyways, again, the whole woe is me. But I was really only in that brace for about a year. And then coming out of it, it was just more so doing things to keep myself strong. And so working in Pilates and just finding tools online, even this past summer, I was looking up a bunch of different resources because I do kind of want to be an advocate for dancers that have scoliosis and realize it's fine. Actually, one of our common friends that I remembered when we were on Lakers looking at her back, just because you're always in your crop top and your pants. I went up to her. I was like, do you have scoliosis too? And she's like, I do. So I'm like, see, it's so common, and it's very common in girls. A couple of my other friends have it too, even if it's just a slight curvature. But I think for me too, just aesthetically, I'm imbalanced with my hips, and in my waistline. And so that was always hard for me. And I think dealing with technical things like going into a turn, I would be off centered, really working with my mentor with some technique and some Pilates instruction. She kind of helped me be more aware of that. In terms of exercises, like side planks are always really hard for me on certain sides. So doing that, lots of core exercises, and even like it's almost like I have a tightness in a certain part of my back. So the hardest thing for me too is doing kind of like when you do like a roll back, And if you were to come up, like even trying to do like a normal sit up is really, really hard for me. So kind of those slow roll downs, if you will. I'll do the hundreds for Pilates, a lot of core and back strengthening. I think is kind of what's helped me through. But yeah, and over the past summer, I was just looking up different resources. There's different foundations and different, even accounts online that kind of have scoliosis specific exercises that can help. Lots of stretching and things like that too. So even like I'll sit on the floor sometimes if I want to work like at my little coffee table. And I got one of those, like the seat cushions, basically, like if you have, because I would start getting like really bad sciatica pain and stuff. So I sit with my little cushion on the floor even, so just finding things that work for me, and just making sure I stay limber and active and that sort of thing. So I don't know, hopefully that answers your question. Yes. I know it's all over the place, but it's not a one-stop fix, I guess, but there's lots of different things you can do.
It sounds like it. And it sounds like Pilates, because a lot of Pilates is core, back, strengthening and stretching. And sounds like that has really helped.
Yeah, making that change, because I always mostly did, like weight training or cardio and things like that. But I think adding the inclusion of Pilates, and I think too, a lot of it too kind of reminds me of dance, because, it's a lot of, you have to be very specific about what you do. And sometimes the movements are so small, but they're so difficult, so yeah, that's one thing that I miss. I need to try to get back into a Pilates class now that things are opening up too, but it is helpful.
Michelle, this was wonderful. You gave so many great tips, advice, life lessons. You taught us how to overcome struggles, overcome injuries, overcome mental injuries, and more. This was really, really beneficial.
Thank you. Thank you, Lacey.
Thank you so much.
Oh, no, of course. I'm so happy to do this. And hopefully me sharing has, even if I've given one person a tidbit to kind of think of, then we've done our job.
Mm-hmm. I agree. Well, have a great rest of your day. I'm going to go do some Pilates now. I'm going to try to do it.
Yeah.
I love Pilates, but okay.
I know. I'll see you later. I'm going to go pull up YouTube right now and find a video to follow along with.
Yes. See, it's so easy now. We have it at our fingertips. We can do it. Thank you so much, Michelle.
Thank you, Lacey.